They called it the Victory of Terra. Streams of light cut across the galaxy, broadcasting the Tralaxian Supreme Commander's face, smooth, scaled, crowned with ceremonial bones, as he addressed every sentient corner of the Empire. The resistance has ended. Earth has been pacified. Humanity's defiance is now history. On a scorched platform of what used to be Washington, D.C., alien banners fluttered above a skeleton of a city. Monuments cracked. Ashes of forests and cities swirled like dead snow. Tralaxian boots stomped through the remains of nations, their metal plating slick with soot and blood. They were conquerors, not caretakers. Humanity had made them bleed far longer than expected, but in the end, like so many before, the primitives fell. The soldiers laughed as they walked through rows of abandoned homes, flipping over furniture, scavenging odd trinkets, pictures, baseballs, crosses, crayons, wedding rings. Sentimental species, one of them muttered, tossing a teddy bear into the fire. Major Calroth led the patrol through what had once been Colorado Springs. The high mountain air irritated his throat, and he constantly pulled at the translator disc embedded in his neck. "Why does this planet cling to its atmosphere like it's protecting a secret?" he complained. "You'd think it'd give up, just like its people." A junior officer approached. "Sir, another relay station went dark last night. That makes 3 this week." Calroth frowned. "Equipment failure?" "No bodies recovered. Just silence." The major's scaled brow furrowed. "Unacceptable. We're not dealing with phantoms. It's sabotage. Perhaps a final cell." "They're calling it the Shadow, sir," the officer said hesitantly. "The men there unnerve. They speak of a human that doesn't fight like the rest. Doesn't run. Doesn't speak. Just kills." Calroth snorted. "Ghost stories. That's how weak their kind has become." But in the darkened edge of that ruined city, a shadow moved with purpose. Beneath the rubble of an old-school gymnasium, Jack Callan watched the patrols pass. Face smeared with ash, rifle cradled like an old friend, breath shallow. Every move was thought out. Every heartbeat controlled. They said the war was over. But for him, it had just begun. He wasn't part of any remaining unit. Not anymore. Command had gone dark weeks before the final orbital strike. No orders, no allies. Just the last instruction whispered in the chaos before blackout. If they take the surface, make sure they never feel safe on it. Jack had memorized every patrol pattern within a 30-mile radius. Not because he wanted to engage, because he wanted to study. Let them believe they'd won. Let them lower their weapons and lift their helmet. That's when fear works best. He watched the Tralaxian convoy roll by. A transport hover truck slowed to avoid debris, predictable. That's where he'd hit them. Not today. But soon. Back at their base, Calroth entered the command center where General Zytrix sat coiled in satisfaction. Screens displayed planetary progress reports. Resource mines active, labor camps swelling with survivors. "We are ahead of schedule," Zytrix purred, his voice a hiss wrapped in silk. "Earth will feed the Empire well." Calroth hesitated before speaking. "Sir, something's not right in Sector 12. The general's tongue flicked in mild amusement. "You're superstitious, Calroth." "No, sir. Methodical. We're losing comm stations without distress signals. Patrols vanish with no trace. And there are messages." "Messages?" The officer swallowed. "They're crude. Written in Terran blood. Words like Rule 1. That made Zytrix pause. Slowly, he turned toward his subordinate. "Rule 1. Calroth nodded. "It's a human phrase. We've intercepted it in tactical briefings. Sometimes written on walls. Carved into helmets. It means, never assume you've won." Zytrix's amusement turned to contempt. A last breath of bravado. No different from a cornered beast baring its teeth. "Perhaps, sir. But this beast knows how to cut throats." That night, Jack moved like mist through the trees. He had one goal, fear. Not mass destruction. Not visible resistance. That would make him predictable. Instead, He hunted like the predators of ancient myth. Clean, fast, surgical. He reached the outer fence of an alien communications hub. 2 guards at the front, 1 on the tower. He left none alive. By dawn, all that remained were stripped corpses, each with a single Earth dog tag placed on the chest. No bullet wounds, just blades. Clothes work. Personal. Carved into the tower's surface were 2 words. Rule number 1. Zytrik received the report in silence. He's sending a message, Kalroth said, though his voice now lacked defiance. No, the general said. He's building a myth. And myths are contagious. Outside, Tralaxian soldiers moved in tighter group. Helmets stayed on, even during meals. Patrols began hesitating when entering forests or ruined buildings. It was subtle, but it was spreading. The fear. The waiting. Back beneath the mountains, Jack lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. It had been weeks since he'd spoken to another human. He didn't know who, if anyone, had survived. Didn't matter. They'd made him a weapon for moments like this. Not for glory. Not even revenge. But for memory. He exhaled smoke into the thin air, eyes fixed on the far-off ridge where another alien facility glowed in the dark. Tomorrow they'd think they were safe again. Tomorrow they'd forget rule number 1. He'd remind them. Snow fell lightly on the crushed bones of Denver. Jack moved through it like a shadow that didn't belong to any body, like the earth itself exhaled him to remind the invaders they had miscalculated. His camouflage was dirt, blood, and memory. He hadn't spoken in 9 days, not even to himself. His rifle, an old M110 rebuilt with scavenged parts, felt like the last heartbeat of a dead civilization. His boots crunched silently in the frost outside the alien depot nestled in the remnants of a suburban strip mall. 6 guards. 4 sentries above. 2 patrol routes. He'd watched them for 3 days. Same rotations, same chatter. They believed they were untouchable. Inside the depot, glowing canisters pulsed with a steady hum, liquid xenon, or maybe whatever Tralaxians used to fuel their machines. Jack didn't care. He only cared that it exploded when introduced to friction and heat. And he knew exactly how much it took. At 0200, the lights flickered, and in the span of 8 seconds, 6 alien guards were down. Silent, surgical, like watching a magician remove pieces from a chessboard without touching the board itself. Jack moved like a wind that hated everything it touched. He planted the charges fast, minimal noise, no mistakes. But before leaving, he did something deliberate. He pulled a combat knife from his boot and carved a message into the metal shell of a fuel tank, still breathing. Then he vanished into the dark, just as the depot blew skyward in a bloom of fire and chaos. From orbit, satellites recorded the plume. It wasn't just destruction. It was precision. Controlled. Intentional. A calling card. Inside the command spire at New Tralaxia Base, General Zytrik read the report with trembling talons. His second, Kalroth, stood rigid beside him. He left survivors again, Kalroth said. 2 of them. Disarmed. Unconscious. Woke up hours later, intact. Zytrik's eye ridges flared in disbelief. Why? Kalroth hesitated. They said, he whispered something to them. Zytrik leaned forward. What did he say? Kalroth lowered his voice, almost embarrassed. He said, "Tell your friends the boogeyman is real." There was a long silence in the room. Outside, entire squads were now requesting transfers away from Earth. Officers filed psychological reports on growing cases of stress hallucinations. Night patrols refused to separate. Doors were locked from the inside. Lights left on. Helmets never removed. Fear was a weapon, and Jack wielded it with methodical cruelty. He never hit the same way twice. A stolen comm tower here. A sniper shot from a church steeple there. A supply drone that vanished and returned with its pilots' heads in its cargo bay. Each time, the message remained, rule number 1. The myth of the boogeyman, once a joke in the Tralaxian barracks, now came with breathless superstition. New recruits whispered about a human who couldn't be tracked, couldn't be seen, couldn't be killed. Rumors swirled that he didn't need to eat or sleep. That he had died and returned, reborn in the fire of Earth's final hour. Zytrix slammed a claw on the steel desk. Enough of this. He is one man. Kalroth did not respond. He stared at the holographic map of North America, where red X's marked every location Jack had struck. Each was connected like veins, arteries of deliberate chaos. He wasn't random. He was mapping something. Hurting them. For what? That night, Jack moved through the ravine north of Boulder. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. His left arm throbbed where a Tralaxian bolt had grazed it 2 nights earlier. Infection was creeping in. He bit down on gauze, burned the wound with a heated knife, and didn't scream. Pain was an old friend. He found a downed alien scout ship, its 2 pilots missing. Nearby, a patch of earth was dug up. Jack found what he was looking for, an old satellite transceiver, half crushed but still salvageable. He began to piece it together with wires and parts stolen over weeks. He wasn't just killing. He was building something. Back in orbit, the Empire dispatched their elite hunters, the Black Talon Syndicate, a breed of mercenaries who specialized in extinction. Paid in planetary shares, they had never failed. They think I'm prey, Jack muttered, watching the sky blink with their arrival. He smiled for the first time in weeks. The story was working. He wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore. He was building a myth so strong it would outlive him. One that would haunt alien war councils long after his bones turned to dust. He returned to his cave, the transceiver now functional. Just enough signal power to reach low orbit, not enough for a full broadcast. That was fine. He didn't need words. He simply sent a string of Earth military code, one long dead to most. But someone, somewhere, might still recognize it. It read, still active. Rule number 1 enforced. Awaiting purpose. Then he waited in silence, finger on the trigger, eyes on the stars, ready for the next thing to come through the dark. The reply came 3 nights later, an encrypted signal bouncing between half-dead satellites and broken orbital debris. Jack had just finished rewrapping the infection on his arm when the receiver blinked once, then again. He stared at it for a full minute before sliding his thumb over the cracked console. A single line of code spilled out. Military signature confirmed. Echo protocol initiated. Phantom assets inbound. Hold the ground. Jack leaned back against the rock wall, heart still, breath measured. Not relief, confirmation. He wasn't alone. Somewhere out there, someone was still fighting. And now they were coming. The Black Talons didn't wait. They hit the ground with the subtlety of a meteor strike, descending in pods of obsidian alloy, each one marked by sigils that meant death in 20 alien dialects. Tralaxian Command had unleashed them like leashed gods. They swept through the Rockies like a storm. Infrared scanners, aerial drones, seismic readers, all focused on one man. And yet, Jack moved beneath them unseen, unheard, a phantom wreathed in Earth's broken soil. He didn't run. He redirected. They followed a trail of carefully planted evidence, blood, spent shells, even scraps of his uniform. It led them to a burned-out warehouse in Wyoming. Inside, the bodies of Tralaxian scouts hung from rafters like warnings. The Black Talons went in with guns charged, ready for legend. But Jack wasn't there. The charges went off 15 seconds after the last one stepped inside. From a ridgeline a mile away, Jack watched the blast wash the sky in fire, painting the stars with vengeance. He'd planned the trap for days. The timing had been perfect, but as the fire died, a sick certainty curdled in his chest. One of them had survived. He saw the movement, a shadow slipping from the wreckage, fast, inhuman. A hunter of hunters. The game had changed. By dawn, Jack was bleeding again. A scratch across his ribs, shallow but close. They'd seen him now. Tasted him. The Talon who survived would come harder and smarter. No more fear games. This was war now, and war meant sacrifice. He didn't retreat. He moved to the signal tower. The one he'd rebuilt weeks ago. Using the last of its power, he sent one more transmission. Not a distress call. Not a request for help. A warning: Talon deployed. Contingency required. Time running out. Hours later, while resting in the hollow of a collapsed rail tunnel, Jack heard the hum of unfamiliar engines above. Not Trelaxian. Not Black Talon. Smoother. Human. He crawled out into the moonlight, rifle in hand, eyes squinting skyward. And saw them. 3 dropcraft, marked with the faded insignia of the United Terran Forces. Phantoms. His message had reached them. Within minutes, they landed without fanfare. No orders shouted. No flags raised. Just soldiers, like him. Scarred. Quiet. Ready. A woman stepped forward, helmet off. Her face was sharp with fatigue, but her eyes locked on his with recognition. "Jack Callan?" she asked. He nodded once. "I'm Captain Reyes. Phantom Division. We heard the stories, but we didn't believe them." Jack didn't answer. "You've stirred a hornet's nest," she said, stepping closer. "But now you're not alone." He finally spoke. "Too late to pull back?" Reyes smiled grimly. "Way too late." They didn't waste time. Within hours, Jack briefed them on Trelaxian placements, the Talon threat, and his plan, what he called the Reminder. A coordinated strike against every visible symbol of alien occupation across the western seaboard. It wasn't about taking land. It was about taking certainty from the enemy. They agreed. No speeches. Just action. The Black Talon that had survived Jack's trap watched from a distance. It had no name, only a designation. It had faced insurgencies across 7 galaxies. But it had never seen humans fight like this, without central command, without numbers, without fear. It watched them operate like wolves. Efficient. Vicious. Silent. It realized too late that this had been the real trap. Jack hadn't been hiding. He'd been drawing the Talons in. The Phantom squads spread like infection, targeting comms, fuel, morale. For every soldier lost, 2 more rose from hidden bunkers, from caves, from the ashes of broken cities. The boogeyman had become a banner. Not just a ghost, but a cause. Trelaxian Command tried to reassert control. They called for reinforcements to be reinforced. But their signals met silence. Because someone, Jack suspected Reyes, had hijacked the orbital relay. And when the message came through, one last pulse across the Earth's sky, it wasn't in alien code. It was human. Projected in bold white light against the clouds above New Trelaxia Base, the message read: "You forgot rule number 1. The base fell within the hour." Jack stood amid the ruins, body worn, blood dried, rifle across his back. Reyes joined him, smoke curling from the wreckage behind them. She didn't ask what was next. She didn't have to. He looked at the horizon, then said it quietly, as if to himself. "Now we make them remember everything else they tried to forget." The war was never over. It had only just begun. The silence after the fall of New Trelaxia Base was unnatural, like the Earth itself held its breath, unsure of what came next. Jack stood at the edge of the ruined alien command center, wind tugging at the frayed edges of his coat. Smoke still spiraled into the dusk from shattered spires. For the first time in months, the sky above Colorado was empty of patrol drones. But he didn't feel victory. He felt motion. Something shifting. Captain Reyes crouched near a collapsed console, retrieving a partially intact Trelaxian data core. Her fingers moved fast, practiced, already decoding on instinct. Jack watched her, noting the tremble she tried to hide behind the efficiency. "You okay?" he asked, voice dry from dust and smoke. She nodded. "Yeah. Just tired of secrets." Jack stepped beside her, peering at the flickering glyphs dancing across the screen. "Then let's burn them all." The core revealed what he feared. Earth wasn't just a conquest, it was a testbed. The Trelaxian Empire had used humanity's downfall to study resistance, chart trauma patterns, measure psychological collapse under prolonged occupation. They'd cataloged it, weaponized it, and worse, they'd been broadcasting the data off-world. Thousands of light-years away, other species watched, took notes, laughed. They weren't just invading, Reyes said, her voice low and bitter. They were teaching others how to do it. Jack's jaw clenched. His fingers curled against the grip of his rifle. Then we're the curriculum now. They uploaded the core to the Phantom's secured relay and destroyed the original with thermite, watching it hiss and melt into slag. The rest of the unit spread outward, securing the ruins, setting traps for any late-arriving Tralaxian reinforcements. But Jack's focus narrowed. His mind was already turning toward the source of the broadcast. The message in the data logs came from deep space. A Tralaxian relay satellite in the Orpheus Drift, a dead zone at the edge of known space. The perfect place to hide the nerve center of an empire's propaganda network. We cut the head off, Jack said, or this starts again somewhere else. Reyes didn't argue. She just nodded and summoned her tactical lead. Within 12 hours, a strike team was in orbit, quietly armed and cloaked beneath repurposed alien tech. They would slip into the drift, locate the satellite, and sever the flow of Earth's suffering before it infected another world. On board the Phantom vessel Ghostlight, Jack stood at the observation window, watching Earth shrink behind them. He didn't say goodbye. That place, that war, it was still with him. Still in him. It traveled in his blood. Reyes joined him quietly. You ever think about what comes after this? She asked. He gave her a look that bordered on a smile. You mean peace? No, she said, shaking her head. I mean survival. After the story ends. Jack looked back at the stars. The story never ends. It just changes names. The Orpheus Drift lived up to its legend. A field of shipwrecks, failed expeditions, and long-forgotten cries for help. Signals warped here. Light bent. Gravity spun in slow, uncertain eddies. But in the center of the void, the relay floated like a spider's web, massive, elegant, terrifying. It was alive. Not in the biological sense, but in purpose. It pulsed. It listened. It calculated. As they approached, their stealth held. But Jack felt something else, like a pressure behind his eyes, a tension in his chest. The satellite wasn't just broadcasting. It was watching. It knows we're here, he said softly. The boarding team went in with electromagnetic silencers, EMP charges, and pulse knives. The goal wasn't to destroy. Not yet. First, they needed proof. To show every world that what had been done to Earth was not conquest, it was experimentation. Inside, the relay's core was a cathedral of alien design, tall obsidian spires lined with glass-like panels that shifted constantly, replaying Earth's downfall in cold detachment. Cities falling. Civilians broken. Soldiers tortured. It looped without shame. Jack moved through the archive like a ghost, recording it all. Every image. Every log. Every cruel annotation left by Tralaxian observers. The others worked in silence, setting charges, logging files, eyes hard with fury. Then the satellite spoke. A voice. Not mechanical, not entirely alien. Something between a whisper and a scream. Human. You are the echo of a dying world. You are noise, not consequence. Jack stood before the pulsing core, unflinching. Funny. I was just thinking the same about you. He placed the final charge at the base of the relay, syncing it to the team's extraction signal. They left nothing behind. As Ghostlight pulled away from the drift, the charges ignited. One by one, the spires collapsed inward, pulled into a self-consuming loop of gravity and radiation. The network blinked out. The scream of the Empire was silenced. On Earth, for the first time in years, the stars above looked clean. Reyes met Jack on the lower deck, her face streaked with soot, her voice hoarse. You think they'll come again? She asked. Jack leaned against the wall, sliding to a seat with a groan. Maybe. Probably. Doesn't matter. She sat beside him. Why? He looked at her, eyes quiet, steady. Because this time, we'll be waiting. And far across the void, in a dozen alien capitals, silence fell as Earth's last transmission echoed one final time. You forgot rule number 1. Never underestimate a human with nothing left to lose. The galaxy would never forget again.